Hi, I'm Akhil.
Number one now.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing Vikram Vedha, not the 6-year-old Tamil original, but the Hindi remake of it, starring Hrithik Roshan and Saif Ali Khan, and directed by incidentally the same guys who made the original. So, Ron, like my naive self tells me you do a remake when the original one is like a good movie, right? So then, how do you explain the existence of this?
Did you watch the original? I haven't seen the original.
No, but like the fact that the same directors have made this one, I'm assuming the original is at the same quality or around it.
Oh, I'm guessing with these the remake culture in our
And with
country.
this like sensibility is like I'm not sure. It cannot be like 5x better, right, than this one.
Who's to say?
But like yeah,
but the way that remakes happen here is basically doesn't have anything to do with like how good or bad the original is.
basically, did it make money?
If it made money, then let's remake it in like 10 more languages.
And with like 10x more money for some reason.
Yeah, and remakes here, they've been happening for decades and decades. Ram Gopal Verma remade.
Yeah, because the understanding is that no one watches like things with subtitles in India, just like people in the US. So like the only way to expand your movie beyond your particular state or region is to make it in other languages.
And usually these movies are like short remakes, so it's not even particularly like, oh, let's change something up. Although maybe the cultural setting has been changed in this movie, I'm assuming.
Sure, we're in Lucknow now, but that seems believable. Did you like ever like feel like the movie is in Lucknow?
I mean, barring the few external like shots and stuff, the performances don't really. The performances don't really communicate any specificity of where the movie is set.
I mean, they try very hard. Like, everyone's like trying to say hum, and then like exaggerated, possibly like accents of like localization, but like there's no like authenticity to like the Uttar Pradesh setting of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, so like surprisingly, Hrithik Roshan does a better job at just being consistent with the tone of the performance.
Also, I feel like he benefits from the fact that he's allowed to be larger than life, right?
I mean, if anything, that would have given him more opportunity to screw up. But
yeah,
that he does.
Like I think that like Vikram, like Saif Ali Vikram is just like in 1 or 2 lanes. Like he's not allowed outside of that.
Yeah. Also, he's like slipping in and out of accents and stuff, So, why do it in the first place, Or is nobody noticing? Because I'm noticing. And nobody just bothered to be like, ek aur baar kar lo, or just abandon it completely, Why?
They're like, nahi, pandemic hai, abhi time nahi hai. Like, they're saying ki wahan pe budget overrun ho raha hai.
Pata nahi. Anyway, that felt very weird because it's a very like straight-laced sort of performance for a character that isn't very straight-laced, which is weird.
Yeah. Like he's playing it as like an honest cop, and he's the last thing from an honest cop. Like he's playing it as if he's still playing like Sacred Games. And I'm like, bro, your character is so far away from your character in Sacred Games. Like, wake up.
I wonder if the opening scene in which the long take thing happens, where they kind of introduce the setup and
mentioning the podcast name slightly.
This is plugging our own podcast on the podcast. So that Rakesh is reminded to.
Branding हो गया.
So उस वाले scene में his performance is a little more like sly, that opening thing where it's very like over the top and stuff. Like, oh, let's do this. This is all.
Yeah, let's do an encounter, but like let's feel like the good guys.
Which kind of changes almost immediately. Like the very next scene, he's playing it like a regular, not even a cop, I would say. Like he's playing it like someone who goes to like office.
Yeah, like a 9 to 5 job. मैं आया हूँ इधर तुम्हें manage करने.
Also, he's not very good at his job. The movie, what I found the funniest was like 2 घंटे हो गए हैं movie के, and then Saif Ali Khan is like, oh, show me photos, show me phone records. I'm like, bro, now you remember.
Because now it's convenient to him, right? Otherwise, It's convenient to the storytelling.
Which is weird, right? And then the movie feels as if, oh, what a like smart cop he is to have thought this, you know?
Yeah, but he's a dumb cop because everyone around him was like getting bribed and he had no idea. So he just feels like a doofus.
Also, why were they bribing him also then? Like he's
I don't know. Because apparently the movie thinks of him as this honest cop, right? Then who cannot be bribed. I think there's literally a character who says to his face that you cannot be like bent or whatever.
But here's my confusion with this movie, and not the stylistic or just the superficial stuff, but just like what is it about? It's a morality tale, correct? And this person is a encounter cop. Objectively speaking, not a good person.
Yeah, he's
Right.
basically a murderer. Encounter is like a very nice way of saying a cop who murders people.
All right. And this isn't lost on the movie entirely because it has
Yeah,
the vibe.
because like they introduce us. The opening shot, as we spoke about, is of him barging into a abandoned place and basically killing everyone inside.
No, but it's possible for that scene to play like, oh, here's a good, like he's doing his job,
But how is it good? Like he just barges in without even saying hands up, he shoots everyone.
And so you and I can watch it and be like, not okay. But someone who actually thinks that encounters are the way to go, do you remember that Bobby Deol?
Oh, someone who doesn't live in India.
Yeah. But anyway, what I was saying was that just the existence of the Radhika Apte character and just the fact that the entire movie revolves around the gangster teaching him a lesson
Right.
in morality tells me that the movie is aware that encounters are bad. Okay.
I mean, from a writing standpoint, but from everything they show us, the way they show us, they film it, the movie thinks encounters are cool.
Which is the confusion, which is what I was coming. Like, it's not okay, but you can't help yourself but show it.
But lens it in a way that looks cool.
Hannah, it's not as if towards the end I was like, oh no, what have I been doing with my life? Not really.
There's no guilt over it. Every moment he gets, he verbalizes his like feeling towards how he's doing right in the world.
Yeah. And the second confusing whatever takeaway that I had of like the film's morality was just because the Vikram character is a bent cop, right? Doesn't mean that the gangster is a good person.
Yeah.
Which is the movie also kind of tries to sell.
Yeah.
But wo bhi to, like, it's
which is
basically
like, they go very hard on that, right? Like the minute they introduce him, they're like, we must introduce like a sympathetic angle. And they're like, the sympathetic angle is called small loan, big smiles. And it's like, this is so corny. You need to get out of here right now.
Yeah, it's super corny. And it's not only do they like compare their kill counts at one point.
Yeah.
Which is the weirdest scene.
But the fact that is that they try to like portray Shatak, his younger brother, as a good character. And I'm like, wait, this guy is basically laundering money. How is this a good character?
Virtually every person with a speaking role in this movie is a criminal.
Yeah. Or at least are helping criminals evade like the law, which is like Priya.
Yeah. But each and every character is
portrayed
like
as if, like they're doing something either cool or like good for the community.
Yeah. Like Veda is gangster, he's killed people, this, that. But bichara, he wants to, turn a new leaf and he wants to like go clean or whatever.
Yeah.
So now sympathize.
And by go clean, it's not like throw away all his money, but by turning his black money into white. Which is just like, that's also criminal.
Also, just the subtext of setting the movie in Uttar Pradesh of all places and being like...
And then talking about encounter cops and like in today's environment, I'm just like, do you guys watch the news? Have you heard of what is happening in real life?
The window between this movie's theatrical release and Jio Cinema, उसके बीच में 5-6 लोगों को मार दिया होगा.
Yeah, on live camera. Like the movie is now like, this is one of those Veep situations, like Veep and Donald Trump. Like this, the movie is now less satirical than the real life.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of satire, it's not as if the movie is very like serious or anything, right?
Yeah.
But all of this seems to be lost on them. Like they do not even clock it. कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं? Like we will laugh.
But I don't think that's the intention also, right? I think the intention is to make a quote-unquote cool action movie.
It's not, that's what I'm saying, right? It's not a particularly realistic or serious movie. It is cartoonish. They are winking at the audience. But
they're not realizing that the commentary they're making on the side.
Yeah, they're not, that the commentary is completely lost. It's like not even on one account do they nail it. Ki, acha, I know the only thing I can give them is that I know that you don't agree with extrajudicial killings. I get it. But then you kind of undercut that
by showing extrajudicial killings in a very like glamorous
way. And then by glamorizing the actual like criminal like the
and then by repeatedly like showing, you know, like
slow-mo shots and so he's introduced multiple times, right? And usko slow-mo mein aise aata hai and like theme song bajta hai piche, and then at one point
kitni baar bajta hai theme song
but it gives you a headache. And
and there was like random songs, like what Hrithik Roshan gets an item song like 5 minutes after he's introduced. Like what is that Pile alcohol song?
Alcohol song. Yeah.
What the hell was that? That was the moment I think like, I was like done. If I was not reviewing a podcast as a casual viewer, I would be like, this is the moment I press back and go into a different app now. Goodbye.
That was very strange because the movie has no other songs, you know.
Yeah.
And this is the one song that exists. It is almost, it's not 5 minutes after he's introduced. I think it's midway through. So it's one of those interval situations probably.
I guess it was so long, I thought it was early on.
Yeah, maybe it's just one of those things that they made and they were like, should we just put it on YouTube or do we keep it?
It was so tonally jarring. Like you're trying to introduce like these two characters who are like, you're trying to show that they're not very different from each other, right? And then just like, oh wait, right now this very cool gangster that you saw, remember like he was like dodging bullets and all that, he's now gonna like become very goofy and like do this song right now. Is that cool? Is that okay? Is that okay? This movie's like wavelength? Sure.
Yeah, the movie's just counting on you like going to the loo.
Or the movie's counting on you to like know that this is Hrithik Roshan and not Vedha. I think that's what it's counting on.
Yeah, but that's interesting because the movie is on the one hand it's also being like, look at our elaborate plot, which is very annoying and we'll get to that. And then on the other hand it's also like, look at these stars. Yeah, those two things are not like going together very well. Yeah, because when the plot heavy thing is happening, I'm concentrating so hard on just being like, what are you doing? You're going around in circles. You're not going, you know, it's unnecessary complication. And when the stars are on screen and there's no like, it's just like glamour shots, I'm like, acha, so this is what you actually want to do. Yeah. Like, you're pretending to be something that you're not. And you're failing on all accounts when you do that. In fact, like Hrithik Roshan in some interview later said, oh, this movie didn't work because it was too cerebral. I'm like, why? Kya?
But that's the thing. I think none of them actually like know what makes the movie work. Because if they knew, then the movie would have worked. So that's why it's impossible for them to answer anything in an interview because they do not actually know what is like they're so far away from making anything close to like a Heat or a Mission Impossible that they cannot even identify what makes those movies work.
I mean, yeah, also there is that their understanding of what works and what doesn't is like paise kamaya ke nahi kamaya, you know?
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's like just secondary, like, because that is coming after you release the movie, right? But I'm saying on set, when they're making the movie, like, you know, like even basic stuff as like, to make the villain seem cool, they stretch it to such a, you know, like it's like imagining stretching a rubber band and they pull it to such an obligatory or like a certain obtuse angle. Like say the simple scene of, you know, Hrithik Roshan in his car, like he's in the passenger seat, he's driving away from these two cars, right, which are chasing him through the fields. And that scene, they make it so dumb in the fact that the people are firing at them, they don't even hit the window. Like, at least Mission Impossible, they won't hit Tom Cruise because fine, he can't die. But they'll hit the window, they'll hit the side mirrors, you know, the stuff like that will break and then he'll survive. Yahan pe they can't even fire at the windshield. I'm like, abhi zyada ho raha hai. Itna to windshield they can fire at.
Or it's not a winding road. It's like a straight line.
It's a straight road. And maybe they can't fire. And then 3 minutes after they have shot, Veda is like, okay, now I'll get up. Now I'll like climb out of my seat and I'll shoot like one bullet, and then the car will go upside down 180 degrees. I'm like, kya ho raha hai? Matlab, what is this? Like, where are you coming up with these action shots where you think like this is okay to show?
I see these things, I don't mind as much as I get annoyed by a movie kind of trying to be smart. I appreciate when movies are dumb, which is exactly moments like this, like people are missing, whatever. That doesn't bother me, because in this movie you're not supposed to hit anything, right? Unless the hero's doing the shooting.
Yeah.
Whatever. But then when you have like Sharib Hashmi character, right? We know that he is who he is. And then you have like 3 other separate gangster like kingpins. And then you have a plot about the brother. Then you have a random brother ki wife ne usko backstab kar diya. Then she has come back. Then you have Saif Ali Khan's partner, who has had a crisis of conscience after being bribed. Then he has gone to save. Then Saif Ali Khan has developed clairvoyance. He has imagined like what has happened in the crime scene. Right?
Yeah.
All of this is what annoys me.
The funny thing is, this is what the movie shows, right? And you get confused over like 2.5 hours. You said this in like 60 seconds, and I got confused while you were talking. I was like, can you stop talking now because I've lost track?
Exactly. Like half the things you wouldn't even remember. वो तो मुझे अभी याद आई भाई. क्यों ये भी हुआ?
Yeah. Like that clairvoyance thing is so like random. That's like like something that happens in like Jessica Jones, where the cop is like superhuman and she can imagine like things because she's in a superhero TV show.
And literally in the last 5 minutes is when he finds out, like one more twist. Here you go.
Yeah, like everyone was getting bribed. I was too stupid. I was wearing blinders. I was only realized about said blinders after the villain told me blinders are a concept. I'm like, bro, who are you? Are you sure you're the boss of this police force?
So all of this. This is a momentary team up also. Okay, ye to karna hi hai, because otherwise audience will be like.
Yeah, at that moment I realized that this is what the movie is trying to build to, right? They want to build to a moment where the villain and the hero, supposed quote unquote, end up on the same side. But they royally screwed up that they had no idea how to like get them together through this convoluted mess of a storyline.
And the annoying part is that deep in this like nonsense, there is an interesting story. It is a fable, right? It's not supposed to be, like I said, it's not a heat, it is supposed to be like, here is let's have a moral to this, right? Even though it is about how, so like most things aren't like black and white, so that in itself is an interesting premise. It's like an interesting,
because like there's too many like Indian movies and TV shows where like the cop will be the forever like white ears good guy, like Gandalf, untouchable. So it's interesting that they're willing to like in the first minute they're like, okay, our hero is great, he's shooting people on sight, and even when they don't have a gun.
Structure of it, like on paper, like if someone told me, or these people sit across the table and they like discuss morality by telling stories, which is,
that's compelling. It's like almost like the best scene of The Dark Knight, but like 3 times.
3 times, and like full flashback, like ghante.
Yeah, long flashback, but for some reason like Saif Ali Khan never talks in those flashbacks.
Yeah, which again, I'm okay. Like one person is a storyteller, the other person is just supposed to listen. He's supposed to be the audience surrogate.
No, I think that the reason that doesn't work for me is because the movie is like trying to appear a little edgy, right? So when this suddenly you shift from a gear of like, oh, I am an edgy movie, to like, oh no, I'm a straightforward movie,
like a sappy,
give you this flashback without the character interjecting, then it seems like you've lost like the angle. Like you've forgotten that Vedha is telling Vikram. So then in a normal scenario, Vikram would interject because he's the smart cop, right? He's like, oh, तूने ये कैसे नहीं सोचा? तो वो सब होना चाहिए during the flashback. It's not we're actually gone to 5 years ago. This is him telling him.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because when the movie like goes into flashback, it becomes a different movie. right?
Exactly, yeah.
And also it goes from like the tone shifts like 10 seconds with 10 times sometimes, you know. It goes from like like whatever edgy, like here's a gangster sitting across the table from a cop or whatever, and then it does like comedy.
To like, kya, I don't know, koi mil gaya, like, please put your head in my hand so I can kiss your forehead.
Yeah, and then Shari Bhashmi is doing comedy, and then Saif Ali
Obviously.
Khan gets like romantic song in at one point.
Yep. He's like, the Lakshman Rekha has been drawn that we cannot talk about our work and personal life together out in the house, but bedroom maybe we can flirt. Like, what? Can you decide what movie you want to be?
Also, that love song when it happens is insane because he's blood, like he walks in like khoon.
Yeah.
Khoon, okay. And then it in virtually 5 seconds there's like gaane baj rahe hain. Ye kaise hua? How did you?
I'm getting like trauma from alcohol. You know?
So all this stuff is happening in this movie. And there's way too many characters. There's way too many like subplots. If you would just have strip it down by like 80%.
Yeah, because I think they just spent like 15 minutes trying to get you to care about like Chanda, and I was just like, who is Chanda?
Chanda, I didn't even realize when she grew up. Like for the first flashback, they're children, right? And then Agle Wale mein, you know that the this Rohit Saraf guy is the brother. I'm like, okay. But then when this girl comes, like, who's this now?
Yeah, kab hua? Can you please do a flashback within your flashback to remind me?
Yeah. And I don't know this fascination for flashbacks, but this may be a Hrithik Roshan thing because he did like War was 90% flashback, and War also had like, oh, let's face off types, you know, and it was like slightly morally like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy types. So maybe it's one of those things where you had a story and then the star comes and he's like, no, you know,
I cannot be portrayed in said and said. Like.
Yeah, you need to tailor that script for me. And Saif is like, he's shrugging his shoulders, whatever. जो भी कर रहा है करवा लो, मैं तो same. I'm just gonna wear. Come up.
I mean, yeah, Saif is Saif. He's willing to like participate in like full like Islamophobic material.
Yeah, which one are you talking about? Because he's done multiple of those.
I think I was referring to that Ajay Devgan one, but clearly there are more than
Yeah, in the next month, Adi Purush.
next month. Oh my god, what are you doing, Saif? Like, see, he's like taking note from Shah Rukh Khan. Shah Rukh Khan did this show for Netflix, which was full like against our culture, so I must do more of them.
He's not good in this movie, right? He doesn't understand what kind of movie he's in. He's playing the straight guy when he doesn't need to play the straight guy.
Yeah, he's being the 90s Indian cop who was taking on all evil.
But I thought that Hrithik Roshan was...
Hrithik Roshan knows how to like eat up a scene. Like he knows how to be like,
which is
I'm in command
surprising.
now.
Because he's normally not very good. But in this movie, he knew what to do and he stuck with it. And I thought he was watchable. Like, I didn't mind the scenes in which he was being unhinged.
Yeah.
And
it's just the storytelling and the tonal shifts completely.
Storytelling failed him as well, which is ironic, right? Because it felt like he was relaxed in the role, like he knew what to do. It wasn't a like tentative sub-perform.
Yeah, which is why I started with the podcast. I was like, there is no way these retros can make this movie and the original is like 5x better. I cannot imagine a world.
And I have no like desire to watch the original, even to see ki kya alag hai.
Yeah, after you see this, you're just like, yeah, that's one. Like, I'm just like, I cannot trust you that, you know, you can take your original and like make it this worse. Like the original has to be around this level. That means
this is a very like Batman versus Superman situation because these people were convinced that they've done something great. Like I remember like reading or watching something where you're like, oh no, but this one is something else, you know, this one is going to be good. Like we are really proud of what we've done. Everybody who was part of this movie kept saying this. And surprisingly, even after it released, you know, because normally here people are very quick to be like, no, what movie? We don't even know it exists. Wo kharab when something flops. But here they were like, no, you know, good movie. Then I don't know. Is
this like a case of like you used to such
Denial.
not denial, but like used to so like low level material for the rest of the year. Is that, I mean, actually this is just low level material as well for me, but like for them this is like a step up. They're like, okay, this is like god tier.
I mean, for people who enjoy like KGF or one of those movies,
Yeah, I guess.
then
Yeah.
it's very similar, right? Because it is loud, it is like slow-mo, it is
It's almost like about like exposure, right? Like if you haven't exposed yourself to actual good cop, bad cop sort of type movies or like moral details as this one is, like if you have never seen something like Heat, you're never going to know that something like Heat is capable of.
yeah, and nobody's expecting them to make a Heat, but then at least
Yeah, I'm sure. But I'm saying the people who have never seen Heat in their lives, they don't even know something of that level can exist. Which is why they're just like, when they see this, they're like, yeah, Hrithik and Saif are being cool for 150 minutes. Paisa wasool ho gaya.
I suppose, yeah, they'll just be waiting for those moments, right? When they'll be just
Yeah, like I think people are waiting for the hero like moment so the soundtrack is like played. And I'm the opposite where I'm like,
stop.
why are you doing
Yeah.
this?
It goes against every like, I don't want to say rule, but like conventional wisdom, right? And not in a good way where you're breaking the rules or whatever, right? It's almost
you're not being like,
transgressive,
self-aware and meta about it. Yeah, you're not like upending it deliberately like something like scam or something where you this is a cliche and we're doing it ironic, whatever. You're doing it like
because normally what you would expect is if you have just take like Avengers Endgame for instance, right?
Yeah.
You know that you've teased a musical theme, but you don't hear the musical theme until like 2 hours later for the first time, right? Which is how you set something up and pay it off, right? But this movie has no concept of setups and payoffs, right?
And same with the Endgame is that you set up like you cannot use Avengers Assemble 10 minutes into the Avengers, right? You have to get your audience like love your characters for like 200 hours before you can use that line.
And it's not just the music, how the movie uses music, right? Which is like, here's the same theme every 3 minutes, right? But it's also just, here is something that Saif has to solve, and here's how he solves it, and here's the payoff. It doesn't do any of that. There's no like tension building to his investigation, right? Where you're involved with it. You're like, oh, acha, now I know what he needs to do. Everything is like, he finds out what he needs to do, and then he solves it like 5 seconds later.
Or sometimes he solves it even before it happens, right? Like, see, but in the case of that, where they try to go find him in that whatever chawl or what little extended slum, Saif knows where he's going to arrive. He sees those, what do they call them? Containers, right? Shipping containers. And he's like, ye yahan aega. The movie gives us that hint. And then for 5 minutes, they send us on this like parkour scene with Hrithik Roshan for some reason. And then Hrithik Roshan ends up in the shipping containers. I'm like, bhai, kyun dikhaya fir mujhe? Why do you show me him doing parkour for 5 minutes if the end result was them meeting in the shipping container? As you said, like there's no solving happened in that moment, right? All we learned was that sure, Hrithik Roshan's body double can do parkour, and a lot of people know him and they say hi to him when
it was just like a opportunity.
That's all we learned in that moment. Saif didn't do any detective work.
It's the running, problem with this movie. It's just it doesn't want to engage the audience on that level. Instead, it'll just be like, here's like 3 cool shots, and let's just get this out of the way so that the plot can proceed.
And the cool shots are that it suddenly starts raining and then Saif punches Hrithik like 10,000 times and he just takes it for no reason.
In a movie like this, I would expect the movie to kind of guide me along, instead of being like, catch up, please. I need to be engaged in terms of not just the morality of it, because that is fairly black and white. Obviously, these people are not nice, but then also what Veda's plan is, because I don't care about plan means nothing because they were all set up. That comes later. But then what is he trying to say? What is he trying to tell Vikram? I need to be engaged in that for me to be interested in whatever cool stuff that you want to throw at me. then the cool stuff will work also. But here is just like empty.
Yeah, the Transformer.
I think Transformers is
Like
much
human
better.
stuff is garbage, and then too much bit, and then 5 minutes after that you're like, oh wait, now metal is striking metal. Have fun.
Transformers like Sam Witwicky ki story mein I was involved. I was like,
No, I think I meant like the later Transformers when I said that.
oh yeah.
Not the Transformers,
So
like the first one.
No, it's one with Marky Mark.
Yeah. You said we'll do some garbage dialogue. So all we're doing this is because we want to jump into another action scene 2 minutes from now.
Yeah.
Please bear with us.
It's basically that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Kind of annoying.
Time to wrap it up.
Yep.
Okay then. That's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to this episode, and we will see you next week.